tonight, hey, Billy, I knew.
So yeah, can you believe it's been 2 years since I've talked about audio dramas? 2 whole years since I've even pulled up and listened to an audio drama. I mean, to be fair, I did listen to some audio dramas at the time before I kind of dropped off the audio drama review wagon here. But a lot of the stuff I was listening to was stuff I'd already reviewed and was in the process of finishing up, like We Fixed Space Junk and Continuum Force and a couple other ones I'd reviewed at the time. And my opinions of those still hold up after 2 years. The only real excuse I have for why I dropped off the planet in terms of audio drama reviews is, aside from just life being complicated and needing my undivided attention, a lot of my listening experience had kind of moved on to professional wrestler podcasts. And I say professional wrestler, not wrestling, as in professional wrestling podcasts are like random smart marks sitting around shooting the shit about AEW or WWE or whatnot. Professional wrestler podcasts are wrestling podcasts hosted by actual professional wrestlers, current and old alike, you know. Stuff like Grilling JR, Fully as Pod, The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. My favorite one right now is Storytime with Dutch Mantel. It kind of has that old-timer telling stories of the good old days kind of vibe with none of the extreme hate boner you get from Jim Cornette's podcast. But you're not here to listen to me talk about professional wrestler podcasts. I don't think. I mean, I'm pretty sure you clicked this link because you wanted to see a review of an audio drama, which is what I'm going to give you. And today we're going to be talking about an audio drama that I found through the pipeline of I was listening to an audio drama that advertised this audio drama, which then advertised this audio drama, which then advertised this audio drama, etc., etc. The audio drama we'll be talking about today is a little ditty by the name of Death by Dying. Initially, it felt appropriate to cover this for the return of the audio drama reviews, because at the time I'm recording this, we are a good, 4 days away from Halloween. And the advertisement made this sound a lot spookier than it actually is. I mean, it's got its spook factor, but when you actually start listening to the audio drama from start to finish, a lot of the time it's pretty funny, actually. Basically, imagine true crime podcasts, you know, the people who make an entire podcast where they talk about a brutal murder and stuff like that. The kind of podcasts that every comedian jokes about women listening to in order to unwind. Basically, imagine those. Take that and make it really, really silly. And you've basically got Death by Dying. I admit I wasn't engaged right away because the way the guy who narrates the stories was talking. It actually took me a good minute to kind of figure out what exactly he was going for in this, and I feel kind of embarrassed to admit that, because usually, I at least like to think that usually I pick up on jokes pretty quickly, but it took me a while to figure this one out, you know. The narrator of the podcast talks like this. Every single sentence has its own weird inflection. Everything sounds like it's being read off of a card, which it probably is, but at the same time, I get the feeling it's done like this on purpose. I've often said I'm very particular when it comes to voices, and I almost kind of rolled my eyes because he read advertisements the same way he does the narrator voice for the audio drama in question here. And I thought, oh God, is this how this guy talks? Is this how this guy sounds? Is he going to be like this the entire show? Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. I'm actually kind of glad I stuck with it, because the more I stuck with it, the more I found myself enjoying the show, and honestly, it's a hoot. Do people even say that anymore? Death by Dying takes place in this small town. It's kind of like Nowhere, Kansas from Courage the Cowardly Dog, except a lot more people live there, and just as much strange shit happens there, and a lot of that strange shit is just treated like a typical Thursday, like, oh hey, bicycles roaming around without anybody riding them. The bicycles are sentient and planning an uprising. Yeah, that's classic this town, know what I'm saying? I could talk about this audio drama all day, but honestly, my words really just can't do it justice. You really gotta listen for yourself. In fact, they even did a live show at one point based on what I found on Stitcher. Yeah, there's no website, so you gotta use like a podcatcher like Stitcher or Anchor FM or one of those things to probably get it. It might even be on Spotify, but it's still worth checking out. I would highly recommend it. I felt like I was being generous with 4 out of 4 hats when it came to audio dramas towards the end, I recall, but 2 years later, the generosity streak continues. 4 hats out of 4.